Welcome to another episode of What Are You Reading? What Are You Writing? I'm excited. Oh, just to introduce myself, and just in case you're new, I am Karen E. Osborne, author of Getting It Right, Tangled Lies, Reckonings, and True Grace. And if you are a regular, you might recognize the face of my guest today because this is his second appearance with his second book. This is Robert Johnson. Hey, Rob.
Hello, Karen. How are you?
Good. Welcome back.
Yes, glad to be back. Thanks for having me back.
Oh, I'm delighted. I have to say, so I got the pleasure of reading The Bebop Bouncer, which is Rob's new book. If you might recall, he had a memoir out that's still doing well out there in the world, and his memoir was From Prey to Protector, a memoir. And then his latest book, The Bebop Bouncer, a New York Tale, just dropped. And I had the pleasure of reading an advance copy of the book, and I just loved it. It's fun and gritty and suspenseful, and it has romance and sex, and it's just so cool. It's a wonderful, wonderful book. So tell our audience, Rob, about the premise of the Bebop Bouncer.
Well, thank you for that wonderful introduction. And for sure, let me tell you about it. So, the Bebop Bouncer, it's about a young man, a young nightclub bouncer, making his way through the exciting and sometimes tumultuous nightclub scene in New York City in the 1980s and 1990s. You know, finding love, losing love. He's collaborating with cops and crooks alike to get his desired outcomes in life in the crazy world he finds himself in. Um, you know, he's faced with a lot of tense situations, a lot of violence at times in the nightclub business, you know, with warring crime factions in particular. And, you know, it's just a matter of how he figures out how to navigate through these situations. And on his nights off, you know, where he finds his solace and his peace is listening to the greatest jazz New York City has to offer, and in the best jazz clubs in New York City. So it's kind of a story about how he, you know, lives his life like every other person, grinding through the week. But his crises are on a different level because he's dealing with
Yeah.
all kinds of tumultuous situations with gangsters and homicide detectives, and it's quite a crime thriller, to say the least. You know, so I had a lot of fun writing it.
Yeah, it's fun reading it. So tell us though, you said that he likes jazz, but the book is called The Bebop Bouncer. So
Yeah.
where does bebop fit in if his whole thing is jazz?
Okay, well, that's a you know a good question. You know, bebop is pretty much a child of jazz. It's pretty much an offspring of jazz music. During the 1930s and 40s in the United States, in places like Louisiana and Kansas City, New Orleans, birthplace of jazz, so to speak, Kansas City. Chicago and New York in particular, and LA. These were places where jazz music made its way into the mainstream. And in those days, in the 30s and 40s, the genres were more of a big band style. You know, in
Mhm.
particular, the great bands of the Duke Ellington Orchestra or the Count Basie band, and many others. You know, white bands as well. You know, Artie Shaw and you know, Glenn Miller and all these other great big band leaders. They all had these incredible musicians in the brass sections, in the string sections, in the percussion sections, but it was not tenable in regards to maintaining these organizations because they were very heavy and cumbersome to travel around the world. And
Right, they're so big.
exactly. So as fate would have it, a lot of these incredible musicians in these organizations, playing in these bands, traveling, weren't making any money. So the great ones, Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker in particular, Miles Davis, to name three, broke out on their own. Max Roach, the drummer, and created this improvisational art form known as bebop. And it's kind of a birth child of jazz. So when I say jazz,
Wow.
bebop artists perform in jazz clubs, and jazz is bebop, bebop is jazz. But you can, if you're one of these improvisationalists, somebody modern day, let's say Vincent Herring tours New York often, or Joe Lovano, or some of the people I mentioned in the book.
In the
You
book.
one saxophone, one tenor saxophone man, a drummer, and a bass player can travel around and make their money and not have to deal with 30 people, getting in line and all of the chaos that goes on with big bands. So that's the how in my research and my love of the music, I used to be into the big band stuff, as a classical type of American music. But then I evolved into the bebop era of the late 40s, the 60s. And that's my little spiel on bebop. Why bebop? Because it's more soloist focused as opposed to giant
Big band. Yeah. Thank you for that lesson. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It sounds really good. So Big Ray, he's your guy. He's your character.
Yes.
What do you love about him? What's really, from your perspective as a writer, perspective of the writer who created him, what do you really like about Big Ray?
Very interesting. Yes. What I really like about him, what I love about him is his resilience. His ability to fight on when the chips are down. He's faced with a lot of situations from his teen years through his adult years, through the course of this novel, this tale of New York, so to speak. His ability to fight back, his resiliency. In addition, I really love his clarity. His ability to make decisions, tough decisions in very tense situations. That clarity, is tied into the theme of the book, the bebop bouncer. He finds this clarity, while meditating in jazz clubs, listening to these artists, and he just floats away, and his mind wanders to bygone years or to the current situation he's in. And when he snaps to at the end of the performance, he's got a whole new outlook, and he's ready to deal with work the next day.
Ready to go, because he does. Yeah, he does have some big challenges and big decisions, and loyalty plays a role in the story too, about where does his loyalty lie, and because he's got to make some decisions around that as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
resiliency and clarity, and using jazz and bebop to gain that. I love that. So your first project, when we met you last year, you had just finished your memoir. Why?
Right.
What was the decision-making process for you to say, okay, I'm going to give up nonfiction and I am going to take a chance of writing fiction?
Well, I enjoyed the tough soul searching process in writing a memoir. It was tough, recalling everything and actually sharing and revealing so much in a nonfiction setting regarding my life story. So, but I enjoyed it. It was very therapeutic for me, but painful at times. I also really enjoyed the feeling of being published. That satisfaction of when you set a goal, especially when you're not collaborating with other people. There's no team, there's no leader, there's no people following you. It's just you and your own schedule, and you set out to do something, and you get there in a relatively comfortable amount of time. And publishing in that aspect is the goal. And I was very pleased with that feeling. So I kind of want to recreate that feeling. There's satisfaction in it. There's a euphoria that comes from it, you know.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I'm preaching to the choir here, you know, with your list of credits. It's, you know, I'm glad to hear that I'm on the right track here, that you agree. I, you know, as for fiction, you know, I figured since I have so many stories in my brain floating around, you know, I could write about many of them and turn them into a fiction fantasy, as I did with the Bebop Bouncers, so to speak. You know, I wanted to test my creative ability. I did that with the first fiction book, and you know, I'm very pleased with what I came up with. You know, in the Bebop Bouncer. You know, the story, the characters, everything. I'm really glad. I'm really happy with how it came together. I'm kind of baffled, you know, because I set out to do this. You know, I have to credit you as an inspiration as well with regards to fiction. But you know, because I've watched you and I've listened to your, you know, your advice, you know, during the process in some of the conversations we've had over the past year and a half, 2 years, and you've inspired me to, you know, endeavor into fiction as well, along with all that I've said already. But you know, I'm baffled still, you know, that this came to pass with the second book, because, you know, to start out with just a title and then have 80,000 words, you know, come together in an organized fashion with you know, an intro, a body, and a climax and a conclusion. You know, when you're writing in college, you know, it used to blow your mind if you could write a 10, 15 page paper, but you know, putting 80,000 words together, you know, fiction in particular, you know, it's quite a creative process, you know, and
Yes.
I'm baffled on how it came together, because it just did after I put together a solid outline. You know, I've speaking to you, you know, because I remember questioning, you know, how you come up with these amazing characters. You know, it's like they're just made out of whole cloth. Just they appear, and then, you know, and they all have different personalities, and you know, you feel like after reading a Karen Osborne book, like you know every person. You know, so I took that into my laboratory here, and I decided I have to have a solid list of characters, and I have to make them known to the readers in a fashion like you do. And but the point being is, I'm baffled on how it came together, because I wasn't, you know, I made all of this up, you know.
Because you're talented. That's
Well,
why.
I appreciate the vote of confidence, but going into the next project, I'm as, you know, it's back to the drawing board. All right, where do I go from here? Okay, I have to search the memory banks and, you know, invent a fantastical story, you know, and develop more characters, bring back some of the old characters. But yeah, that's my, I'm going to do some reading and some research for the next few months. And I'm hoping to get back into the writer's lab in June, maybe, and see where I am.
That wonderful. That you've got the bug bad, and that's a wonderful thing.
Yes.
You and so many authors watch us, and they're totally nodding while you're speaking. They're nodding their heads and saying, "Yeah, that's what it is," and it is baffling and exciting, and it's just an amazing thing. And to have all these characters in your head, it's just like unbelievable.
For
So,
sure. I'm glad to hear that I'm not alone. That's good to know.
you're not alone at all. So I know I told you this so many times, but I love the cover of this book. And I
Yes.
wonder if you could just hold it up so our audience can see it. Lift it up a little higher. Look at that. Can you guys see that?
It's
It's
a
so beautiful. I'm going to lift up my copy too, so maybe
little
they can
dark
see
on mine.
that.
Oh, yours is much clearer. Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
I love the
And
cover. Yeah.
yeah, so how did the cover come about?
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate the compliment, because you know, just quickly, you know, I had a vision, you know, on what I wanted this book to look like. And with the last book design for the memoir, I went with personal pictures. So it wasn't that complicated. there wasn't any real art design, and I didn't have to, pursue artists or graphic people, because I had a vision for that book, which was just two pictures, three pictures, two on the front, one on the back. And the book design people at the Author House Publishing came to put the colors together, and I'm very happy with that one as well. But with this one, this is all, they're fictional characters. A lot of the stories, are based on stories that I was a part of, personally, or witnessed, in regards to, but I've sensationalized them to a degree, obviously, to make it fiction. But I sketched it out in my own chicken scratch. I'm not an artist, I'll show you a picture of that, as silly as this might look. I had a vision, I have
Oh, we can't really see that.
a city
can't really see.
backdrop. There's like the Brooklyn Bridge, and here's my bouncer, overlooking. Yeah, it's too dark here to see
Yeah.
that. My point is, I sketched it out, and I was
That's
referred
it yourself.
yeah, I
Mhm.
sketched it myself, and I got a great referral, a young man by the name of Joe Colangelo, who does graphic arts and design, computer design. And I text him a snapshot of my chicken scratch sketch, and he worked his magic and came up with this great cover.
That's
So
so cool. And what a personal, I mean, I have no imagination like that, to think about what my cover should be.
Mhm.
So I think that's so cool because it's a very evocative cover.
Yeah,
The bouncer is there, the music is there, New York City is there. So it really works, and the colors are just jump out at you. But
absolutely.
this show is not just about writing, it's also about reading. And last time we spoke, you offered us some great books that you enjoyed and authors that you enjoyed. But I wonder if there was something you've read since last year to this year that you could recommend to our crew.
Absolutely, yeah. As I told you the last time, you're aware. Obviously, your listeners don't know me from Adam, but I like to read biographies. I'm a bit of a history buff, in particular, recent history, the last 200-300 years, American history, and
Mhm.
so I read two biographies since the last time we spoke. I read, let's see, this one's called, Saving Freedom. It's a book
Mm,
by Joe Scarborough, morning host and former congressman. It's about
yeah.
Truman. It's a biography about Harry Truman, and how he affected the world, uh, even to present day, with the Truman Doctrine and the Marshall Plan, in creating a Truman Doctrine for America post World War II, and how we would face our adversaries and our allies alike. And it's a fascinating book. Just gives you a clear grip on what Truman was up against and the vision he had, and you can see how his doctrine followed through every decade to present day. With regards to how we're dealing with NATO and things of that sort. But
Oh, interesting.
how the communists were trying to take over Greece, and how he had to get Congress to vote on aid in between 1946 and 47 to prevent the Soviets from taking over Greece. And just the whole policy,
Here we are, right? And
the
here
whole
we are.
exactly, and here we are. The whole Cold War posture of the United States was based on this man, and it's a fine read. In addition to that, I also read a biography about LBJ, Lyndon Baines Johnson. It's called Indomitable Will. And this one's by Mark Updegrove. What's fascinating, both of these gentlemen were very consequential presidents in the 20th century. And it's just two, I've just checked two off the list. I've known a lot of about both of them in history I've read over the years through
Mhm.
school and through my reading over the years, but I saw these books and they caught my ear and eye. So I picked them up and I read them, and I was not disappointed. Good history lessons in regards to why we are, in particular with LBJ, with all of the incredible legislation he was able to get passed. and then how he just in taking over in such a tumultuous time after the murder of his boss, President Kennedy, and just how it all crashed and burned for him with the debacle of Vietnam.
Yeah, and so interesting because he really did pass some amazing legislation that we benefited from
Absolutely.
over the years. But I just saw, not but, period. I just read a listing by historians of the best presidents.
Yes.
They wrote them in rank order, and LBJ was like really low. And I think the war just sunk him. You
Yes.
know,
Absolutely.
it sort of erased so many of the things. But anyway, we digress.
Yeah.
So we want to tell our audience how they can find you. You know, what's your web page, where you are on social media. Before we came on, I was chatting with Rob, and I get a lot of his feeds of his ads, like his Facebook ads and stuff. So how can everybody find you
Oh,
online?
absolutely. So let me just preface those comments by just showing my books. Right. This is the memoir we discussed before, From Prey to Protector. And this is my new novel, okay, The Bebop Bouncer, a New York Tale. The subtitle for From Prey to Protector is A New York Story. So I'm kind of stuck in my hometown genre here. But anyway, those are my two books, and they're both available at Author House Publishing, as well as any other mainstream book publishers, Amazon, Barnes and Noble. You can get them online. Simple type in The Bebop Bouncer, and it pops up on any one of those. But as far as connecting with me, I have a website in the makings, should be available when this broadcasts, and it's going to be www.robertjohnson66.com. My email address is robajohnson22@gmail.com. And on Facebook, I'm robert.johnson96995. And on Instagram, Papa J92. Papa J92 is a name come up that was given to me by my daughter and her girlfriend when they were helping me create my IG account. They just came up with that. So
That's cool.
I
That
didn't
sounds
make
like
that
another
silly name up.
character. That
Yeah,
sounds like another character in a book. Oh yeah, Papa J.
exactly. They're talking about me, the gray-haired guy that you're talking to today. But anyway, this was fantastic. I really enjoyed speaking with you again, and I look forward to anybody sending me questions, and definitely check out my website and get some copies of the books. And I look forward to talking.
And then write a review, because we
Absolutely.
love reviews. I
Review,
want to
review,
thank
review.
all of you. Thank you so much, Rob, for being on. And I want to thank all of you for watching. I so appreciate you being a faithful watcher, or if you're just brand new, I hope I will see you next week for the next episode. What are you reading? What are you writing? Have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.